Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to World This Morning. I am your host Hajra Satti and joining me is my wonderful co-host Fahim Bangesh. Assalamu alaikum Fahim. How are you doing today?
Walaikum assalam Hajra, and I'm doing very well, alhamdulillah. And it's a very special day, Hajra.
Of course,
it's Iqbal Day today, and when it comes to Iqbal, when it comes to his philosophy, when it comes to poetry, there's one thing that comes to my mind, one peculiar and particular memory of mine from a very early age. My mother used to say, कि खुदा तुझे किसी तूफान से आशना कर दे, खुदा तुझे किसी तूफान से आशना कर दे कि तेरे बहर की मौजों में इस्तराब नहीं. Well, at that stage, I wouldn't really understand. But now when I come to this stage, I've come to realize what she meant, and I used to feel really offended that time. What is she saying? Why is she saying this to me? But then when it comes to Iqbal, and when you read Iqbal, when you delve into the huge sea of poetry and philosophy, you get to understand what he actually meant, how he wanted to wake us, wake the youth, and everybody in the country, all the Muslim Ummah from their slumber. And we can see, Hajra, how that is so relevant to today's world even.
That's very true, and I think one of the biggest feat of Allama Muhammad Iqbal, and I later in my life came to understand the Iqbal, especially his book, The Reconstruction of Islamic Political Thought, is that he wanted to modernize Islam in the image of Islam, not in the image of West, and I think that is the biggest achievement, and I think we should give him the status that Karl Marx enjoys in the West, but unfortunately, we feel so much burdened by the knowledge which is coming from the West, which is the monopoly which the West enjoys in the field of the knowledge production, that we are unable to claim him. But obviously at PTV World we try to break that monopoly and create a new narrative and give a new narrative regarding Iqbal, and we will kickstart a conversation, and we would like to not monopolize our conversation and start having the conversation on Iqbal, what he meant for the young people, for the youth of our times, and why his message is so ever green and everlasting, and his message has so much depth and intensity in it. We will talk about it. So without any further ado, we would like to introduce our guest. We are very glad that we have been joined by an historian, a religious scholar, and our very favorite. He happens to be Professor Abdul Basit Mujahid Saab. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Wa alaikum assalam. My pleasure indeed.
Pleasure having you here, sir.
And joining Professor Saab, we're very glad that we have been joined by one of our very favorite educationists. She happens to be Miss Aisha Kazmi. Assalamu alaikum, Ma'am Aisha, and how are you doing today?
Walaikum assalam Hajra, walaikum assalam Fahim. I'm perfectly fine, and let's together wish Allama Iqbal a very happy birthday.
Absolutely.
It's a very wonderful day, and we are together going to have a wonderful discussion about this.
That's very true, and we are certainly looking forward to it. And when we talk about Iqbal and when we talk about youth, we would also like to incorporate the point of view of the youth of our country. So we are very glad that we have been joined by a wonderful young bird. She happens to be a writer, social media influencer, and also a photographer. We are very glad that we have been joined by Minahil Khan. Assalamu alaikum, Minahil. How are you doing today?
Walaikum assalam. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Well, good to have you here, Minahil. Now, starting off with you, Professor Saab, Iqbal and Iqbaliyat, whenever we talk about him, we talk about a huge sea, an ocean of knowledge. We speak about an ocean of philosophies that he's given, be it the concept of Mard-e-Momin, be it the concept of Khudi. But unfortunately, what we know is that today, people don't really understand and go into the depths and details of what they actually mean and what they actually represent, how a proper Muslim should be in this particular era.
In fact, Fahim, you rightly said, Iqbal is an ocean, and we are still standing outside that ocean because we are not getting exactly, we are not familiar with Iqbal. We cannot understand Iqbal, what depth Iqbal was having, and look, he was not of previous century man, he was man of centuries. Even after millennium, one could feel, I expect that Iqbal is relevant. So this is the very special thing with Iqbal, and Iqbal himself predicted a lot of things, and you look, we are sitting in Islamabad in this beautiful studio. That was Iqbal who saw this dream that there must be a country for the Muslims of South Asia, and what that country should be. And beyond that, we know today father of the nation, who convinced father of the nation to lead this nation. And look, what is the conversation between Iqbal and Quaid-e-Azam that molded what is today the map of the world. So look, he was just not a poet. He was just not a, what we could say, fine art person, but he was a philosopher. He changed the dimension of the thinking of the Muslims of South Asia, not only South Asia. But I feel this thing that the whole globe, particularly Muslim world, inspired by Iqbal. Look at Turkey, look at Afghanistan, look at Iran, look at these all now these Central Asian states. So that was Iqbal who inspired them. Look, Iqbal said that गर तहरा हो आलम मशरिक़ का जनेवा शायद के कुर्रे अर्ज़ की तकदीर बदल जाए. Still people are wondering. People are patching some amendments in that Iqbal was not right. It might be some other city like Lahore or something. Look, we are not moving with the pace of Iqbal. So Iqbal is everywhere. Iqbal, if we want to know about youth, Iqbal is there. If we want to know about education, Iqbal is there. If we want to know that Islam is relevant to all ages. So for our age, Iqbal is the man, Iqbal is the idea, Iqbal is the philosopher who teaches us that this is what Islam is saying for these recent day, modern day challenges. So the thing is that where is Iqbal in our curricula? Where is Iqbal in our media? Where is Iqbal in our parliament? Where is Iqbal in our finance and our financial system? This is a big mark today. We all have to think about that.
And I think Ms. Aisha is sitting right next to Professor Saab, and we need to, because Professor Saab raised a very important question, where is Iqbal in the curriculum? And we would like to throw this question to Ms. Aisha. Ms. Aisha, we do see Iqbal in, some of the verses or some of the poets of the Urdu chapter, and which is usually in the last pages of that. I don't think so we should relegate the status of Iqbal to those last pages. Why not we have an Iqbaliyat as a proper subject, a separate subject? What are your views on that?
Well, Hajra, very rightly Fahim said that Iqbal is just like an ocean. And when we talk about an ocean, we say that, you know, oceans are huge, oceans are unfathomable, unmeasurable.
True.
So if we take an ounce of it and try to benefit the children, that is going to work for us, all right? When we come to the curriculum, I always say that, you know, whether it's a part of the curriculum or you are inculcating it as the ones who are you know, we have this pride that Iqbal belonged to us, isn't it?
That's
that
true.
if we take the basics of the subcontinent, being a Muslim, giving us a vision for the separate country, we can never negate his contribution.
That's true.
Now, how can we bring it more live and available in the educational setup? See, Hajra, I believe that, you know, if not in form of the poetry or poems, definitely the young children, because my school is a primary school, so I always connect and try to make a link with the younger ones.
Right.
You know, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, all the poems written for the students, if they know the gist of it, if they know the message of it, so I believe then we are contributing.
You know,
are you getting me?
You're quite right in saying that the gist and message has to be instilled into the young minds, because these are the formative years of people and students, right?
Definitely.
But the problem is that the teachers that majority of teachers I'm talking about, not all of them, majority of teachers, they want to get done with the course outline. They want to get done with the curriculum because they want to get done so that the year gets finished, the people get nice grades, and that's it. There is a concept of rote learning. People will rote learn the tashri of all the verses of Iqbal. But what about actually instilling the spirit of his poetry?
Yeah, see, this is what I said, and I would like to connect to what I earlier been discussing with you people, that bringing the elements in a manner that the children get the message and idea. Knowing his name, celebrating his birthday is just a kind of a filler. If we bring it in our day-to-day life, just the way sir said that, you know, he is a total package, and his poetry and his prose is conveying the message for every field of life. It's not only about, you know, all the poems were about awakening procedure of the Muslims, but what was the history of Muslim, what is the present status of the Muslim, and it has a very close connection with Quran Majid, Quran Hakim.
Absolutely.
So, if we pick the gist of Quran, and when it's referring that to La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and if we just try to connect the same message with the poetry of Iqbal, we will find it over there. If we just take three things out of it, the concept of unique individuality, the concept of connecting to your Lord if you want a better life, and the concept that, you know, this world is just a transitionary affair, and we are going to be having another world, the world after it, the concept of the world after this world. So, all these things, all these elements are available in his philosophy and in his poetry. So, definitely, as I said earlier, that if we take the gist and try to inculcate the concept to the children, that is going to be the healthy practice. You know, one day just putting that costume on the faces of the children, and then they are listening to a mime and moving their hands and not going to take us up to any direction. But if you are just picking up one poem, Hamdardi, Pahar aur Gulehri, and in easy, simple manner, trying to teach the basic message of that to the young learners, toddlers, kids, students. So, I think that will work. Just recite it, the recital, yes, the recital is important, because you know how I connect myself to Iqbal. My father used to read his verses for all of us, और जो उस ज़माने में सुनी है फ़हीम, वही आज तक याद हैं, वो अशार जो बाबा ने याद करवाए वो याद हैं. That time, you know, knowing the interpretation was tough. Being a 4-year, 5-year-old, I used to have a kind of a competition with my brother, and I used to say, Baba, you know, I know it totally. Do you want me to do it for you? And the recital kind of, yeah, but this is the way we learn the verses.
When
yes,
you have to instill these concepts in children.
And then finally we get the message. Finally, we know the meaning of all that. So again, I would like to refer that bringing in to the curriculum and day-to-day life practices of the school, that is how we can keep him alive with us. He is, as sir said, that he is ageless, century-less kind of a poet, mashallah, and we are the owner of him being Muslim. It's a great honor.
His poetry is evergreen. But now we move on to Manahil. So Manahil, since you represent the younger generation, so have you read Iqbal, and would you like to recite some poetry of Iqbal for us?
I have read Iqbal, but I cannot recite his poetry because I don't think so I'll be able to do justice to it.
Right.
But I think reading Iqbal's poetry, his philosophy and his general message, I think as a person of youth, what I can abstain from it is that his message at that time, at the partition of, at the fight of freedom, was to decolonize the youth. And I never realized the importance of it in my early ages. But now, if I see what is happening around the world, I really realize why that decolonization, or why that message was so important. That why we needed, why he needed his youth to speak up against the people of power, to question them. For example, whatever is happening in Palestine right now, you can see a majority of youth right now that is being decolonized, that is standing against that genocide, even though it's being supported by supreme powers. But that message, I relate the two things in this way, that we needed this decolonization, and it has taken us years to be decolonized. But this message was being given to us by Iqbal through his poetry a very long time ago. And it's very essential for us to explore that field. We do love his poetry. There's a very poetic way to what Iqbal said. But do we realize how important it was?
True that, and like Hajra, you often mention the modernity of thought, and that's exactly what Iqbal brought to us. And now, moving on to Professor Saab, Iqbal says, he mentions 4 essences of a Muslim, Qahariyo, Jabbariyo, Quddusiyo, Jabrut. Ye 4 anasir ho, to banta hai Musliman. So where does that Musliman stand in today's world? Because these are 4 basic things which he describes, and we rarely find it in today's world.
Look, Iqbal is a, I feel Iqbal is today here and looking what Ummah is doing, what humanity is doing. And look, he was saying that we are same. He was omitting the things which are not like to be of for a Muslim youth, or for rather a good human being. And look, he inculcated into youth the love and affection and patriotism to his own land. Look, this I from my childhood, I love this. A few lines I would like to recite in front of you.
Please do.
Iqbal says, "Ho tere bayaban ki hawa tujhko gawara, is dasht se behtar hai na Dilli na Bukhara, जिस समत में चाहे सिफते सैले रवां चल, वादी ये हमारी है वो सहरा भी हमारा, गैरत है बड़ी चीज़, गैरत है बड़ी चीज़, जहाने तगो दौ में पहनाती है दरवेश को ताजे सिरेदारा."
Wow.
So look how Iqbal is just dissecting what is happening. We look at the rows of youth outside the embassies of the Western countries.
True.
So look at what people are doing nowadays. Why people are not looking the cosmos through the prism of Iqbal. Iqbal is saying, मेरी जिंदगी का मकसद तेरे दीन की सरफराजी, मैं इसीलिए मुसलमान, मैं इसीलिए नमाजी. So look, as ma'am was saying, look, Iqbal said us that dar zabane Pahlavi Quran for Maulavi, for Maulana Room. But look, because he is assuming himself the disciple of Rumi. So, but he himself, what I recited in front of you, Meri Zindagi Ka Maqsad, Tere Din Ki Sarfarazi, this is 3 times mentioned in Quran. وَالَّذِي أَرْسَلَ رَسُولَهُ بِالْهُدَى وَدِينِ الْحَقِّ لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْمُشْرِكُونَ. So this is the remedy of all ills, not only for us here in this part of the world. But as our young participant was saying, that we have to decolonize our curricula, our research, our thinking style, and our outlook as well. Look what is happening around. Where is Ummah? Where is Jabbari? Where is Qahari? And where is Quran? We are not attaching ourselves with Quran. Iqbal was thinking in the way of Quran. His life was just look. I was just recalling. Once Iqbal was sitting on a roadside with a pawn shop, and suddenly his teacher arrived. So when he saw his teacher, he was not wearing shoes. So one pair of shoes was on his shoes and one was not. He started walking behind his teacher to respect his teacher. Even one foot was barefooted. So this was Iqbal. And look, what were the parents of Iqbal? So if we want to know how to live life like a man and man of honor, so Iqbal is there. And look, he was thinking this way. I have not only observed but read. In Iran, Khomeini was saying when he brought revolution that this is because of Iqbal. Look at Turkey, what they are looking about Iqbal. And once I have just feel this thing, there was a young chap from Turkey, and he was telling us on the same Iqbal Day, 1 decade ago, He said that once I took one delegation of Pakistani businessmen to Istanbul, and we were going through the Egypt bazaar of Istanbul, and suddenly one old Turkish man, he saw the delegation, and he asked the person that they are from where? They said they are from the land of Iqbal. They are from Pakistan. So look, the person who was quoting this thing, that young man, was Junaid. So Junaid told that elderly man, he just hugged everyone, and the tears were coming out, like, just like he found some his own offsprings. And then Junaid asked that, what happened to you? Why you were doing this thing? He said that when I was in childhood, and at that time we were suffering, and he was referring to that Khilafat movement, all these things. He said once Iqbal was standing in a ground of Islamia College Railway Road, and he uttered a speech, and he said that today Islam is to help our Turkish brethren. So one lady who was in his own home, and she heard Iqbal. So Iqbal was not only admitted, explored, and celebrated in his own time. So what the lady did, she looked here and there. Nothing was in his house to send to the Turkish brethren. He has just one orphan kid, and he took that kid to bazaar. I presume that in Shalami market, and she asked, who is the owner of this market? They said, okay, what do you want to say? She said, Iqbal said today that Turkish brother needs money, so I have nothing. I am here to sell this orphan kid and to give some money to the Turkish. So when Junaid was saying, the flood of tears are out of his eyes, and look, this is Iqbal. And today what is happening around, we all know, we are watching now, this is global village, the media access is there. How can we have our breakfast nicely? How can we sleep when our kids are butchered everywhere? Iqbal is asking today from all of us, where is that youth Iqbal wanted to be,
and he spoke about in his books. Right.
That's lovely and wonderful. Now moving on to Miss Aisha. So Iqbal has written lots of poems for the younger kids too. For example, ek gaay aur bakri, ek makda aur makhi, parinde ki faryad, and especially when we talk about parinde ki faryad, like Minahil mentioned, it is about such the agency of liberty, the agency of freedom is such an essential thing to have as a human beings, and we should always strive to get free, right? And Iqbal, being a Muslim, has his own version, has his own idea of the freedom in the Islamic light, in the Islamic view. So do you think that the kids or the younger generation are aware of what Iqbal was and what his stature demanded of us to pay tribute to him?
Yes, see Hajra, as I said earlier, and the light is thrown very rightly, by the sir, that when we are talking about his message and inculcating that message, conveying that message accurately to the generation sitting right now in the schools, is what that a very important mission. It's not just a simple task. It can be done, if we bring some elements of Iqbal poetry in the curriculum, and the job is done, as I said earlier. When we are talking that, he was a boundaryless legend. Right. When we are talking about a legendary figure of Muslim Ummah, then it just reminds me one of his verse that ek ho Muslim haram ki pasbani ke liye, नील के साहिल से लेकर ताबिखा के काशगर. Now, in that era, he was time and again conveying that be together. You all need to raise your voice. You all need to understand this, that if you people are going to be quiet, then you are going to be completely demolished by the outer forces, the other forces. Now, if we try to relate the same message with one of the hadith, Huzur sallallahu alaihi wasallam once referred that there will be a time the Muslim will be in a huge number, but no one, literally no one will be raising their voice for the oppressed ones. And the people ask that, okay, will Huzur Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, will we be having no power, or will we be, you know, not in a capacity? He said, no, you will be too much into worldly life and worldly affairs. You will be having a love for, you know, lust of the lively affairs and the wealth. That is going to take you away from your basics, that you are here as a Khalifa, not the king, you know. Muslim doesn't have any concept of kingdom. We need to tell the young children that we are here to convey the message of the Lord to the people, that how, you know, Quran give us a complete package for living our life in a healthy manner. जब हम कहते हैं ना, एक complete लाहे अमल ज़िंदगी का. So if you are asking me that can we bring it to the young students, yes we can, but it depends that we as curriculum developers, school heads and the community sit together and devise better strategy and never try to make the language a barrier. You know, we say that all right, half of the poetry is in Persian, so we cannot understand. No, we can. Gradually we can. We can, if, as I said earlier, if we try to convey the gist or the true message, we can read the verse and we can narrate it in form of a story to young learners.
You're quite right, ma'am. You're quite right. And regarding exactly what you said, Laya Amal Zindagi Ka, a strategy for life. Minahil, I'd like to continue with that. Since we're talking about a strategy of a lifestyle, of how to spend the life and how to be a marde moment, the concept that Iqbal gave, a very beautiful concept, how a Muslim should be. Now, you are also a social media influencer. You happen to be a youth of Pakistan, and you have a lot of say. The percentage of population of youth is a lot in Pakistan, right? Now, I would love to know exactly how you can play a role as far as social media is concerned, because the youth use a lot of social media, right? As far as Iqbal is concerned, his teachings are concerned, Iqbaliyat is concerned.
I believe that at first we should start by reconstructing how Iqbal was embedded in our lives.
Right.
At a very early age, we were just told he's a poet. And we were forced his poetry upon us. I remember that when I was doing my O-levels or A-levels, we are told about his poetry, but about his values, his philosophy, you have to take that time and read it about. You have to understand his ideas, understand his vision, what he was meaning to say through his poetry, and what powers did he give you through his poetry, through those words. I believe that certainly with his poetry, he was telling that use your words, use your voice, write it, whether in prose, poetry, or whatever form you find, just write it, let it out. He did it, and I think instead of analyzing and annotating just like his poetry, I think we should be inspired from it, because you know what's happening around the world. And as Sir said, as a Muslim Ummah, we need to stand together, and if you do not have the arms or means for it, then surely you do have your voice and words for it.
Absolutely.
And as you said, as a social media influencer, I think social media is not just a place for fun and your daily life pictures. It is a great platform for awareness. Use your words there, write there, talk to people there, be educated about stuff from there. Now, Instagram, whatever social media platform that you find, it's becoming a search engine. It's no more just something that you can use to portray your lives. There is a lot of material there to educate yourself upon. So I believe that we should begin with reconstructing our lifestyle and how we believe, how we perceive Iqbal. We should not just think of him as a poet, but we should get the true essence of our lives from him.
And that's a very productive thought coming from a very young bud, because honestly speaking, I do not have a very high opinion about the social media, because the discourse on the social media is very mediocre, it's very average, and people can write anything they want, and usually the conversation is very biased and it's very fragmented and very polarized. But we need to break this monopoly, and we need to have more productive conversations on the social media.
It's a platform, Hajra. I mean, we can have proper, good conversations. as well.
It's a public affair, it's a digital
Yes.
public affair, anyone can write anything, and I think it's high time that we reclaim back a very golden legacy of Allama Iqbal, and why not use social media for that. But after a short break, we would carry forward this conversation on Iqbal and Iqbaliyat. What does the Iqbal's complete man entails, and what does Shaheen means in Iqbal's conception. So don't go anywhere, because we are coming back and having this conversation.
And welcome back to World This Morning with Hajra Sati and Fahim Bankish. And we were having a very productive and lovely conversation as far as Iqbal Day is concerned. It's the birth anniversary of Iqbal, and of course, it's not just the birth anniversary that we have to discuss Iqbal. It's a topic that needs to be discussed on a day-to-day basis, as it's quite relevant in today's era and world. Now, interestingly, we have been joined by a very young guest, and a very interesting guest. We have been joined by Muhammad Murtaza Kashif. Muhammad Murtaza Kashif, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
How are you?
Fine.
Lovely. So, Murtaza, since you're here, are you going to recite something for us? Today is the Iqbal Day. It's a very special day.
I'm gonna tell you one of his poems.
All right.
Go ahead, please.
The mountain was making fun of the squirrel, and the squirrel the mountain is said that you can't carry a forest, rivers can't hold you, and then the squirrels had the I can crack a nut, can you crack a nut? The mountain said no. And then the squirrel said, I can jump really high, can you jump really high? And then the mountain said, no. And then the squirrel said, I can climb up and down, wouldn't can you climb up and down? And then the mountain said, no. And then the squirrel said, if you are big or small, you are still important.
Oh wow,
Oh,
that's
lovely.
wonderful.
We
That's
must
true.
clap for you.
That's lovely.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Can you
So-
share with everyone what is the message of the story or the poem? What it's saying that everyone is?
Important if you are big or small.
Oh,
It doesn't
wow,
matter.
that's lovely.
That's why you are also very important for us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And Hajra, as he was saying, that language should not be a barrier. He recited Iqbal in English, and we know he came across with the message of Iqbal that everyone is equal.
Right, right. And so
yes.
now we move on to Professor Saab. So Professor Saab, one of the very favorite topics of mine, which is related to Iqbal, is the perennial conflict between the science, between the philosophy, and between the religion. And Iqbal wrote Reconstruction at a time when the religious experiences were at the crossroad, and he mentioned that knowledge also comes from the religious experiences, and he debunked that very famous Western conception of the divorce between the church and the politics. So do you think that his message is still relevant in terms of what we are practicing today in our modern lives?
Very relevant. Look, we have same challenges as we know. Looking around, we are still dependent on West, and the angle of West is more important for us, even to know about our own self, our own history, our own dignitaries. We are looking through the lens of West. So Iqbal pointed out this thing. He went to England, he went to Heidelberg, he has done his PhD from Heidelberg. He himself gone through different stages, and then he reached to this thing that he said that excuse me, surma hai meri aankh ka khaak hai bathao najaf. So this is the conclusion of Iqbal. And one thing more, Fahim, you started 2 lines. I just add to the same
Sure,
the same poem. what is required by Iqbal, what Iqbal wanted from us, Mard Musalman in Zarb Kaleem. And Iqbal, har lehza hai, मोमिन की नई शान नई आन गुफ्तार में किरदार में अल्लाह की बुरहान
वंडरफुल
कहारियो गफ्फारियो कुद्दूसियो जबरूत ये चार अनासिर हो तो बनता है मुसलमान हम साये जिब्रील अमीन बंदे खाकी है इसका नशेमन न बुखारा न बदख्शां ये राज किसी को नहीं मालूम कि मोमिन कारी नजर आता है हकीकत में है कुरान. So look what Iqbal wanted, what is left. Iqbal is saying that whatever you are saying that must be according to the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Prophet peace be upon him. Then most important, Iqbal is saying the character must be crystal clear.
True.
And what then Iqbal is saying, Iqbal, the original, what we could say contribution of Iqbal is self-esteem. Look how he connect himself and connecting us as well to our original sources, Quran and Sunnah. He is saying that you must not assume yourself that you are made of mud. Hamsaye Jibreel Ami, Bandaye Khaki. So he is referring to Miraj.
Yes.
Subhanallazi asra bi abdihi laylan min al masjid al haram ila al masjid al aqsa alladhi barakna hawla. So what if Iqbal is saying about Miraj? So Miraj started from Masjid al Aqsa.
Yes.
And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that I have given barakah to that environment. So what we are doing? Where is our Qibla Awwal? And if we are celebrating Iqbal, we have to look forward. We are 56 countries. Where are we? We are invisible. We must be visible.
That's a very pertinent question, that where are we? But before we wrap up that segment, one last thing that I would like to point to Miss Aisha, and I would like to throw this question in her court. So Miss Aisha, why haven't we been able to produce an Iqbal or a person of the stature of Iqbal as someone who is teaching? Do you think that's moral degeneration that we are witnessing, the tide can be reversed?
Yes, yes. See, if we lose the hope, then we are not true Muslims. And all these things were indicated very clearly through Quran, that there will be a time that Muslim will be apparently Muslims, but inside they will be having a very different approach. So how can we bring that revolution and bring that just back to its life? Now, see, when Murtaza been sharing with you the gist of the poem Pahad or Gulahri, if he knows the squirrel and mountain, but he can convey the message, and he know that the story is conveying the message of equality. So this is it. So no matter whatsoever languages we are teaching them, Muslims were never rigid. They were very open-minded. The true Muslims used to be very open-minded and broad-minded and progressive.
That's true.
Now, if we believe that due to certain society and cultural taboos, we are just making a boundary around us, so that was not the message of Iqbal. All right. When he was sitting in the Muslim Spain in one of the mosques and crying, he was thinking of that glorious period of Islam. Okay. So if you are asking me that that time can be brought back into life, Gen Z is very straightforward. They always speak truth. They are very open-minded. What we need to do is just to channelize their potential into the right direction.
Right.
You're quite right. Yes, you're pretty right, ma'am. Here, you're educationist. You have a huge responsibility. But then also I would like to thank Murtaza Kashif. Thank you very much for being here.
I want you to ask him one question. What you want to be when you grow up?
A janitor.
He wants to be a janitor when he grows up.
Because everyone is equal and important.
And why you like to be a janitor?
Because I like to clean.
He liked to clean.
Oh, that's lovely.
So
that's
lovely
wonderful.
and cute and innocent.
That's wonderful.
Now,
And Thank you so much, our worthy guests, for coming here. Thank you so much, Professor Saab. Thank you so much, Ms. Aisha.
Thank you for the invite.
For coming here and for having this wonderful conversation on Iqbal Day. And one thing that stands out is that we need to reclaim back our roots, and we need to reclaim or revert back to prophetic era, because that was a truly progressive, multicultural and tolerant time, and not in the image of West but in the image of Islam. So with that,
it's a pity that we are pressed for time, because this is a topic that we can go on all day long about, because this is something that needs to be discussed more and more often on a day-to-day basis in each and every household.
Right, and with that we will say Allah Hafiz, it's a goodbye, and until next time, good morning.
Good morning.